Now streaming live from an underground bunker, it's Chris Jones. You are the resistance. Welcome, folks. That was my intro. I'm still feeling Alex Jones. I'm still just so amused, even to this day, with his broadcasts. I haven't listened to him in a while, but whenever he comes on to other streamers that I follow and he's a guest on there, he's always a blast. I'm Chris Poulos. This is episode 4 of Exiting the Matrix, my own show, where I try to delve into the the least talked about things that I can find on the world, on the culture. I try to trailblaze, make my own way, not for the sake of it. I bring up, wisdom that's always been around, but I try to apply it to modernity and what's going on. And I hope that you find it to be edifying. I hope you find it to be insightful and thought provoking. So today's episode is about the occult. It's about what we're seeing in the world and what Alex Jones has been raving about that I think only younger people really know much about. It's the interesting thing about the internet is that because you just have such unlimited reach, you get to talk to so many different people outside of your own spheres. And now we have, honestly, we have a lot better journalism coming from the WikiLeaks, Project Veritas angle mixed with conspiracy theories. And I honestly don't dismiss conspiracy theories because even the worst can sometimes have a few kernels of truth in there. And now with the Epstein Island thing busted wide open, which isn't really a new revelation if you actually care about the issue of child sex trafficking and corruption in the elite parts of our society. There was a similar revelation that came out about the British government, similar instances of that. In fact, it was probably worse, but the government hushed it up, as they do, because a lot of the same people were compromised in that way. And this bubbles up all of the talk that Alex Jones and others were saying that the elite is involved in black magic and witchcraft, and I think that's true. I really do, and I think that it's not so much that this is sudden and new, and this is just the new development that people would do such things. It's more like we have been secularized and we've been taught to be so cynical that we've forgotten that there are people that have their own agendas and they have their own. There's a whole web of forces behind the scenes that affect our world and supernaturally affect our world. And I think that it's a shame that there's been such pseudo intellectualism when it comes to like the atheist movement, which, in my opinion, was its own spirit because of its complete insistence on there being nothing at all, at all. Don't you dare question it. And if something did happen, it's just not explained by science yet. Like the likes of which Christopher Hitchens was one of those big atheists who's pushing that there's no God. It's not even worth discussing, and religion is hypocrisy. And my first contention is that, well, what kind of academic would anyone be if they simply dismiss something as being stupid or non-existent just because they don't have direct proof for it? That's not very scientific. I mean, I don't think that's very, and I don't think it's academic. And not to mention, why are scientists going out of their way to criticize religion? The whole point is that science is always separate from religion. It's studying a different field of topics. So I find it very odd that these scientist guys would suddenly be interested in disproving religion. That proves to me that they had some serious insecurities, because if you really aren't interested in religion or you don't like it, why are you going around trying to tell people to stop doing it? And while of course dismissing all of the good things that religion has done, um, and the boatloads of proof of the miraculous that the media and academics sit on because they really just don't want to believe in things they can't control or understand. Here's some cases in point. You have Our Lady of Guadalupe, one of the greatest mass conversions in, I think it's the biggest mass conversion, spiritual mass conversion in human history, and definitely in the Americas and the church's history. There's so much unexplainable stuff there, and the amount of witnesses and people that had a change of heart and mind just from that one apparition is just, you can say, well, that's unexplained by science, but it looks kind of dumb to do so, and it still looks dismissive even with that, in my opinion. Um, but even if you don't even want to debate about whether or not it exists, it still affects the way people behave. And now there are atheists and agnostics saying, well, maybe us bashing religion was pretty stupid because there went our morality and people's whatever kept people in check. Um, and I agree. I agree that we have an issue when we start discarding anything about a higher power, anything about higher values. Obviously, that leads to some serious decay, from what we're seeing in the world. You can just look, even if you're not religious, you can look at the way things were before the secularization and the extreme liberalism took over the Western countries, and people were having families. People had more self control. People had an understanding of things that, and then they had a better education as well. But they had a deeper understanding and wisdom, that went beyond just our just pleasure focused, selfish focused society. And you can at least say that that's a consequence. They were all much more religious. Now, are all of them great Christians? No, but when you have more people that believe and go to church, the probability of good Christians increases, as well as other people of goodwill within different faiths. So now we have this issue where there are people like Alex Jones hooting the horn, and then Joe Rogan's like this, duh, well, man, well, I do DMT, and that's really interesting. I mean, this guy is, I mean, he's the typical California hippie who wants to try out the mind expanding drugs. And, and even though he blasts off into hyperspace and probably has bigger visions that I will ever experience through these drugs, he still doesn't believe much in anything. I mean, that's how bad it's gotten. But I guess one good thing to come from it is that these people that at least said religion is just based off placebo, man. It's all just people hypnotizing themselves, is a bunch of hogwash, and it always has been. Because if you talk to anyone, any cultural anthropologist or historian worth their salt, and you look into, if you actually interview and look into the sheer statistical significance of people that are spiritually involved in religion and talk to them, you will see that the possibility of it being placebo is actually pretty low. Given the fact that many of these experiences come either out of the blue or they are pushed by one person and they are passed on, especially in the shamanistic cultures, which is what I'll be discussing. They're passed on, they're extremely profound, they are often shared experiences, and now we know, at least in some shamanistic cultures, they use hallucinogenic drugs. They are considered sacred. So at the very least, there's something more going on than placebo. You can look at it under a microscope on how these drugs interact with the brain, the human brain, like DMT and peyote and mushrooms and whatever else they use. But at the very least, you can't say, well, they're just making it up because they want to control people, or they're making it up because they really want to believe in an afterlife. My other problem with that issue is, well, okay, you don't like the concept of hell, so why would people that just want to have hope of a life after death create scary concepts like hell? I mean, eternal damnation is technically worse than not existing. Let's be real here. So why are these religions including such awful outcomes such as hell, including my own? To me, that doesn't sound like someone that is just making it up as they go. Um, Never really seemed to be the case, but again, logic here, people. Like, people don't really think things completely through. They just have their degrees and their own biases, and they just run out there and they use their big words, but they don't really think it completely through here. So, um, now, why is this? Why is this occurring? This occultism, this shamanism, and other spiritualities taking place within the elites. Well, my particular theory is that this is a sign of the end times. They're openly saying that they want a one world government, which is really kind of, I mean, if that is, see, they're very educated people, so they probably know that this is in the book of Revelations, and they don't even care that they're like, they don't even care to say, oh, to accidentally say we want a one world religion. It's like, I almost think as if like, hey, you know what? We're going to join the devil. We know what the book of Revelations is, and you know what? Let's just do it. Why not? What's the worst that could happen? So it's just so brazen how open they are about it. Um, and if you're concerned about the one world government and the one world religion that comes from it, or if you're not and you don't know what the dangers of the one world religion are, you've come to the right place. The one world government and the one world religion are syncretic ideas. They pick and choose from different philosophies, ideologies, and spiritualities, and they conglomerate it into the their own particular Luciferian ideology. So we need to clear up some terms here before, so we can understand. So the first term I'd like to go through is Luciferianism. Okay, that is not the same as Satanism, although it's a specific branch of Satanism, and I think I'm not here to try to increase morbid curiosity and make people be like, "Ooh, let me check out everything about them," because I wouldn't recommend that, because that's a rabbit hole and a half. I'm just here to inform so that you understand more clearly what's going on. Luciferianism, from what they tell me, okay, a lot of these people believe in literally lying because the ends justify the means, but they're not even, it's not even in a good way or not even a deluded way. They literally just want to justify any sin that they have, and they pretend it's for the greater good. But I don't think even they, I think, if you're being, but if you have an island where you're having sex with underage girls and children, I don't think that you yourself can hide from your own BS. I think that they deep down know that they're just rotten, and they want to kind of make up their own thing to silence their consciences. But Luciferianism is this idea that Lucifer is the symbol of freedom and enlightenment and human evolution. Now, apparently, there's atheistic Luciferianism, and there is theistic Luciferianism. But it's very important we understand that, and I think Luciferianism is very important because, believe it or not, our society is kind of Luciferian. And what does that mean? Well, what that means is, well, what does Lucifer represent? Lucifer is a term for the devil in the Bible, and essentially he's the angel, the fallen angel of light, right? Light bearer is his name, and the Luciferians say, well, he gave Adam and Eve enlightenment through the apple, and he represents using your mind and using your intellect and bettering human society. It's actually tied to a lot of Masonic ideas as well as our what we live out today. You know what we see today. What do you see in a Luciferian society? Well, you see people that are all about trying to extend their life, trying to find convenience, trying to find the newest technology and gadgets. Um, it's. I'm not saying that science is bad, but it's the belief that you can improve yourself and the world through science to have the most pleasure and fun you can and improve lifespan, which does not necessarily mean something, the way us Americans and Christians think. We think, well, what's wrong with that, and you're thinking, well, my family will be happier, we can help the poor more, help society. What Luciferianism is solipsism. It's me, and I'm here for, upping my quality of life, and pleasure is my God, and also finding my ultimate potential, which is actually a very occult idea. It is not saying, and they'd like to hide behind, oh, we like science. There is like apparently a Luciferian witch lady or someone that who attended an Alaskan meeting, and I was the first time I ever heard a Luciferian speak, and they're very good. They talk about how, we're all about science and bettering humanity and enlightening humanity, but every time they talk about it, it's like advancing transgenderism and all kinds of just really like leftist ideas, but they use that phrase to hide their true motives, which is to basically spread the gospel of do what thou wilt. You are your own God. Life is your oyster. So that's Luciferianism. Satanism is a form of devil worship which involves hatred of God's law and any organized religion or anything involving self control. So, are Luciferian Satanists? Not necessarily. At least they don't claim they are. Even though they are, they do believe, they do follow the devil, or they don't, or they say they don't. I don't know. I don't know enough about the specifics to know what the truth really is, because who knows? Who knows the complete truth? I'm just going by what they say. But a Luciferian person would be, some of the globalists, these Hillary Clinton, spirit cooking, Epstein, George Soros, Rothschild. Those guys are Luciferian, okay? And there's also apparently other people that are, I don't know, they're more into, they're very few. They're very few. I think the globalists are good examples of a Luciferian. But they're not thinking. They don't think I hate God, and they're like, Satanism is very edgy. Luciferians are like, oh, humanity is meant to go to the stars, and Lucifer represents. This is what the Masons actually write in Mr. Pike. One of the very high level Masons. He wrote positively about Lucifer. Masonry is an example. He talks about how, Lucifer represents enlightenment. So these are like the party Satanists. They're very much into the positive, making Lucifer positive and everything. And they are in a way more dangerous and less dangerous than Satanism, because Luciferianism has infested our society. I was thinking of making another stream just saying, are we Roman Catholic, or are we Romans? Or another one, maybe like, is this a Christian society or a pagan society? But now, there's also another stream I could say is this a Luciferian society? I think we're starting to see some of that. You know, more signs of Luciferianism. I see it within my generation. Uh, I think a psychological term is just abject, pure narcissism, sociopathy, psychopathy. I see it with I see it with I know this is kind of a cliche, but I see it with the far left. The far left, people on the far left, you have these super third wave feminist mixed with Antifa men, and it's like you talk to these people and they're so disordered and they're so lost in their own like sickness and sexual license and anything that makes me feel good. The abortion, the pro-choice, Planned Parenthood, anything involving the pro-choice movement. Those people that are pushing the pro-choice movement are lost in Luciferianism, because those words, "my body, my choice," that's very Luciferian, because you're saying that what your definition of life and what is enlightenment and empowerment is whatever extends your lifespan and makes you most comfortable, which is a different definition of happiness than the Christian ethos. So that's more Luciferianism. All right, so Satanism, I don't think it's dangerous because there is black magic. There are people involved in all kinds of horrible things, murders and drug use and kidnappings, and that would be the Satanists. Okay, Satanism is the ritualistic. Ritualistic violation and inversion of what is good as a rebellion against God or to gain power. Okay. Now, how do I know about all of this? Well, actually, I'm talking to a gentleman now. Maybe he'll come on one of our shows, but there is a man with a great testimonial called Zachary King. How about this one? It was a high wizard Satanist, which means he's not even a podunk, regular Satanist. And he was at the top. He said he was meeting politicians and people asking for power. Okay, and he actually had an encounter with the Blessed Mother Mary, and he's now a fully devout, committed Roman Catholic. What a testament to divine mercy. And he has a YouTube channel, so he works with exorcists, and he exposes different, things, Ouija boards and New Age stuff. He knows all about it because he was involved in so much different magical stuff for so long. And he's good if you see something, if you see something that you're not sure what it is, that's spiritual, but it doesn't fall in line with like one of the religions. It might be New Agey or something else. He'd probably know about it. And he's a good Catholic too, so he'll probably be able to give you good apologetics, and he's probably a good evangelist as well. If you have any questions about why should you join the Catholic faith, and he does a good balance of that. So Satanism is probably not that much involved in the globalist ritual magic, but it is a problem. It's probably connected. They probably hire from those circles. I mean, they talked to Zachary King. Satanism, you have the black masses, you have them purposefully doing sin to gain power. They actually choose Satan over God. They do have their own excuses, and every Satanist believes in something different. We have to remember that people involved in the occult, they're all about themselves, and even people that are Satanist or a witch usually have their own little derivation of their own religion, or their own view on the world. It's really not disorganized, but decentralized. There's like a guy, like I said, Styx Hexenhammer on YouTube. He's a libertarian. He's pro-Trump. He's an occultist. I don't know what form of occultism he practices, But for now, he's advancing Trump's cause. I don't know. Maybe the Lord's using him. I don't know. I have nothing against the guy. I pray for him, actually. But he clearly has his own way of thinking. That's obviously very. He's probably at odds with his other witch buddies, because most witches are super leftist. I mean, it goes without saying. I really am amazed that there are pro-Trump cultists, but there are apparently. Um, but he's an example, and he thinks a lot of his other kind are stupid. Um, Beats me. So there's always, and that's another thing I'll stress later. I look at everyone with love. Like, we don't know the story behind why someone got involved in something. There's a lot of ignorance. Even within Christian circles, a lot of people give Christianity a bad name as it is, and a lot of us are to blame. Christians are to blame, because I know Sticks and Hex and Hammer had a similar story. Zachary King as well. A lot of them are rebellious kids against religion, believe it or not, because their parents were so ham-fisted in the way they presented the religion that they became rebellious. And that's not the only way kids become rebellious, obviously. Usually it's just they become standard party animals, but that is one way it happens. So we have to tread carefully, and if there's like an ex high wizard Satanist who's up here who can be saved by God's mercy, then that's puts us gives us hope to pray for regular Satanists, and below that, people in witchcraft, and below that, people in the New Age, and below that, people involved in other religions, and below that, people that are Protestant brethren, and below that, people that are Orthodox. Okay, we need to constantly keep that in mind, and remember the Lord dying for everyone on the cross. I'm speaking to any Christian viewers here. Um, that's my own unique take on it. I don't believe in like dismissing anyone involved in some strange spirituality as, oh, they're so evil, or they're so misguided, or they're so lost. We shouldn't pray for them. We shouldn't understand them if there's an opening. Of course, we have to keep a distance, because they usually bear pretty hard feelings, and they can cast curses and hexes on us. But at the same time, we still have to love our enemies. So I'm not the kind of person to say, and it's also very reductive, right? Well, let's say like someone's tuning in and they're involved in this, or they're questioning, and then they see someone just like condemning them outright, and you're just reinforcing, oh, that's just another religious, straight laced, straight laced doctrinal Bible thumper, some Puritan who will never, meet me halfway and explain why, who just believes in faith without reason. And that is a shame. Christians should have faith and reason. We should be able to explain ourselves and explain why sin is bad. And I don't see enough people doing that, unfortunately. But what can you do? What are you going to do? I'm just one guy with a camera and a small audience. I hope my words reach the right ears. Oh, Elizabeth is here. Hi, Elizabeth. Um, Elizabeth asks, would Satanists be working behind the scenes to help Luciferians? Yeah, I think so. I think Zachary King said they do. Um, it's very complicated. And yes, there are many Catholic women involved in superstitions and yoga, etc. And that's, again, that is the church's fault. The church does not say anything about that much. There's a few good priests doing it and a few good lay people explaining it, and they don't get any. What's up with the media, the Catholic media? The Catholic media is dragging their feet. They're all into this Pope Francis globalism and stuff, or they're super scared of being critical. They're so stuck in the effeminacy of the times, instead of tackling the issues of our times. So I don't know. Like, it's a shame, but I think that's a good segue into the shamanism. Okay, but my last comments on the Satanism is that, um, there's this other thing called atheistic Satanism made by Anton LaVey. Now, I don't trust that guy because he says, well, I believe in everything that Satan stands for, but I don't believe in Satanism. I'm an atheist Satanist. Really? And he still does black masses? I don't know. And he got his ideas from theistic Satanists? I don't know, man. Like, but there's also these like low level people. I see them on YouTube. They have like they put pentagrams and things on their little icons. A lot of that is spread through the heavy metal community. There's a lot of Satanism going on there, and how Satanism is affecting our culture is through the heavy metal goth stuff. Because again, it's rebelliousness. How many people actually like get involved very seriously into Satanism? Probably not that many. They probably think it's cool to wear a pentagram goat shirt. They probably want to be rebellious, but it does take a toll on them. I mean, if it's, the devil doesn't care how much you worship him as long as he can drag you into hell. And so if it's enough to make you have a messed up life and ruin your life, and you have a life of regret and loneliness and emptiness, and if all it took was for him to sever your connection with your parents and become rebellious against the church and dismiss everything involving Christianity as a bunch of control freak hogwash, then he's done his job. That's what he wants. So that's another way it's affecting us, and it's a shame because a young person's angst and energy can be a very positive thing, but it's not being harnessed, and then that's where I go into the educational system and the parenting. But I've done broadcasts on that already. But that's what's happening there. So. That's all I have to say about them. That is the problem. I hope Trump rolls up more. He's rolling up more on the child trafficking more than any other president. So you'll see a lot of these people suddenly disappear. Now, about the spirituality of Luciferianism or globalism or whatever, it's taking to, and this is what Alex Jones is discussing. They are combining, as they usually do, two different ideologies together, and the first is the syncretic religion of the 60s and the esoteric golden order of the Golden Dawn, Aleister Crowley, sex magic, this idea that they would like try to summon angels and demons. There's this experimental group of occultists that tried to like do this kind of thing where they find the names of angels and demons, they tried to summon them. And one of the people that was kicked out was Aleister Crowley, who's responsible for much of the sexual revolution. He was a power player and working this idea of the age of Aquarius, the hippie movement. He said he gave himself all the credit. He's probably he claims that he has spiritually and materially been behind pornography and anything involving fornication and yoga and all the spread of all this stuff. He's behind the new age. That's what he claims, and he wasn't much of a liar. He was he was a pretty messed up dude, and he very eccentric and I think mentally ill as well. But he took a lot of credit for that, and there's also the CIA programs that's caught up with MK Ultra and George Senior Bush, and one of the you can look this up. There was I believe an Air Force general who was a high Satanist who said he was involved in the intel community, and they basically what they were doing was they were looking up ways to counter espionage and espionage things, and they would tap into occultism. But that's kind of an excuse because I think that these are all people infiltrating the government from these elite occult families and connections, and they infiltrate things. They put up all these cover stories. They're big time liars. They have cover upon cover upon cover because they want to hide what they're doing. Um, but this stuff has been going on for a long time. Madame Blavatsky, Adolf Hitler was involved in the cult. This is a very hush hush thing. This Luciferian stuff, it's also very confusing because they all have different takes on it and their own different opinions. But more or less, what they believe in is that, yes, they believe that all religions are equal, kind of, or they're not. They believe that the true the truth is that it mankind is meant to become a god. Okay, um, in one way or another, they believe that there is an entity that is enlightening mankind, Lucifer. They give them different names, but that's the general common denominator, and that they also believe that each religion is verifying a one world government and population control. That's what they generally believe in. And at first I was like, well, it seems like they just don't even understand their own these religions. But when I look into actual other religions, I can see it. I can see where they're coming from. For example, they take from South American pantheistic religions, where indeed the beliefs of those religions are that we're part of the circle of life and mankind is not really much more important than animals and plants, and we're all part of this big ecosystem. Um, they take from that, and they also use they use the isotope DMT to help them with their clairvoyance and experiencing different things, which is a shamanistic drug. Now here's the thing, okay? A supernatural or paranormal experience is not the same as a spiritual transformation or experience, because religion is the interpretation of phenomenon into an ethos or belief in a god, or multiple deities. Okay. Plus, one religion may look at another religion and not think much of it because they have their own priorities. So a Buddhist will look at the Catholic religion a completely different way. It may not be something like, oh, like there's nothing going on there, but to him it may not be important because he may look at Jesus and Mary and think, well, that's just another God, which is to be transcended beyond our ego, and maybe those Catholics are finding, maybe Jesus is a Bodhisattva, getting them towards enlightenment. And a Catholic will look at a Buddhist and say, well, they have a lot of good points, but they don't answer the why the universe is a certain way. And there's something unfulfilling about there being no God or a Father God who loves us and wants to make us happy, wants to help us become enlightened. And of course his Son who died to save us, and the Holy Spirit who sanctifies us. So, and that also includes what spirit, how the spirit world interacts with us. So, in a shamanistic culture, or other spiritualities that I mentioned, like Satanism and witches and all of them, what I see is that they believe that the spirit world is this like other thing you have to break into, and and this is what a lot of people in our society think. Well, it's anything that you feel is supernatural or taking you out of your mind. You feel trippy, man, and oh wow, it's really exciting. But that's not true from my lens, because for me, every second is an encounter with the spiritual. Every choice you make, that voice in the back of your head telling you to do something good, and that voice, shoulder devil, telling you to do something bad, and that inner voice that calls me to pray or to look at a sunrise or sunset and see this beauty of God behind it. And everything really is spiritual to someone from a Judeo-Christian idea. So this idea that you need to go into another dimension to be to be spiritual or to experience some yoga pose to be spiritual really doesn't line up with our understanding. Now, of course, there are visions, right? And there is a spirit world, which you might, if you're one out of 10 million, you might have some encounter with God that's profound to the point where you see stuff. That's possible and still happens today, on this channel. We're a prayer channel, and because we're doing contemplative prayer, it's actually a daily thing. We experience something profound every day from what I'm seeing. We're gaining great wisdom and understanding in the depths of the Lord. But it's see, that's what I mean. You have to be very careful and look at what is meant by what, because even within the same Christian, excuse me, the same circle of a religion, you have disagreements. So, um, let's look at the comments. Okay, Liz says, "Why would anyone be attracted to this? It's naughty." Well, yeah, Liz, it's very simple. I mean, and I'll get to that again later. It's sin. Sin feels good, but um, let's move on to this this. So we're talking about these people. I again, I don't completely understand them because it's all hush hush, right? But they have their own reasons for population control, and of course, there's a lot of pseudoscience they push. I truly believe that these are just evil people that know that what they're doing, they're just getting off on controlling people's lives inherently. Some of them might lie to themselves so much they kind of believe it, but when you actually look at Bill Gates's junk and what these globalists say, it isn't even like scientific law, but they like to use their credentials to say, well, global warming's totally real, and we have to reduce our population. All this stuff has been debunked, you know. And of course, they don't do anything to see if there's other alternatives. They're just insistent on killing as many people as they want because you know they're nefarious. They want to control the world, pinky in the brain. I mean, they want to have their Epstein Islands. They want to be able to do whatever they want without consequence. That's what's truly making them tick. But what's dangerous about them is that they can fool people and try to hide behind charity, which is just awful. So that's what's going on with them. And then we move on to the pantheistic side, the shamanistic side. Now, again, I don't want to say when I mention this stuff, this is when Alex Jones and I mention this stuff. This is not to condemn the religions or the people of the religions that they're borrowing from. Okay, um, it's stuff that they're taking and warping for their own purposes. Okay, so the shamanistic people of the Peruvian region where this stuff comes from, or the Andean region where Pachamama comes from, are not as evil as these people. I highly doubt if you ask them, hey, what do you think about abortion or destroying like millions and millions of people to save the world, or having child sex slaves? I'm pretty sure that they would be quite offended, and that. But and they probably don't know that their ideas are being used for such awful things. But nevertheless, at the same time, these religions do have experiences. Every religion, I think, except for maybe Shintoism, because Shintoism, I think there's been some, and Scientology. I think that there's been some stuff revealed on that it was kind of a government-made religion, but they have these experiences where they shamanize. Okay, now the reason why the Luciferians and the globalists are all about, as Alex Jones said, the ayahuasca, is because the tribes that use these drugs are so powerful that they can open your mind to stuff. And there are people that still take them and don't believe in anything, like Joe Rogan. But for an occultist, they will use whatever gets them more power and more understanding in their own way. And they also like to spread their own misery. So the whole Woodstock hallucinogenic thing is actually a psyop to open people to globalism. I think that's the danger. All of these hippies are like, well, man, it's not like it's, crack or something. It doesn't affect your brain that way. It isn't addictive. Weed's okay. Well, that's what they want you to think, because although it's true, and I dabbled in this stuff when I was early 20s. Well, it's true that they're not addictive, physically at least. The CIA admitted that LSD, makes people very open to suggestion. And what happens if someone who is rebellious against their upbringing, or doesn't have any true spiritual grounding in, let's say, the gospel or something, and they just want to experience something that takes them away from the world, that makes them feel good temporarily. Well, when they experience something that blissful or otherworldly, they will be open to the ideas of whatever culture it's coming from. Especially if they experience, let's say, oh, I experienced this clockwork elves, as the DMT guys say, or I experienced these ultra dimensional Doctor Strange stuff whenever I took it. I'm noticing that a lot of the people that are taking it are also open to the reincarnation, and nature is alive and the universe is one. And so what the globalists are doing by pushing this stuff, and this is why Joe Rogan's kind of dangerous in what he's doing, is that this is a way to advance the one world religion, right? Plus the entities behind, you're opening yourself to the spirit world. Well, let me be quite frank with you. Generally speaking, God and his angels and saints don't usually come to you unless you ask. There have been reports of people meeting God. It does happen when they do this, and some of them do convert to Christianity, but that's very rare. There's some testimonies on YouTube about that, but generally, God isn't going to step into that unless he wants to, unless you're asking. So more or less, people are involved, are experiencing these entities that that this book, and I have this book on shamanism that I might do for another stream, that these shamans are experiencing. One of the shamans of like an African shaman tribe, shamanistic tribe, for example, said he met the three-headed dog at the gates of Cerberus. And this is someone who doesn't know anything about ancient Greek mythology. So they're tapping into the experiential realm of what these religions and cultures have already understood and experienced. Um, and on top of that, they certain lifestyles coming out which are not very healthy, like this veganism stuff and this, I don't know, like this kind of indifferent, aloof, hippied out thing, which it's really indifferentism. But a lot of this stuff is just bad for Western society. It's like these people, they lose their interest in having families or standing up for what's right, because they get into this moral relativistic stuff, and it's all emotions, and it just worsens the problem. That's the problem with this hallucinogenic drug culture, this hippie culture. Um, Welcome, Sissy. Wow, I didn't see your comments there. So Sissy Brooks is here. She says, "When you act, I agree. I think that's exactly it. They get their jollies from it. It's a masochistic type of thing. They're sadistic too, not even just masochistic and hedonistic." Um, I took care of a man whose father experimented with LSD in California. For him, the army back in the 60s. It was supposed to be a truth serum. Yes, it was. It was actually meant to be a suggestive substance. Um, now it's unpredictable on how it works, because I don't think LSD is on the same level as the shamanistic stuff I'm talking about, the materials, but it can still open your mind to different ideas. And I believe there's a Netflix documentary of how they assassinated one guy by lacing his water or drink with LSD, and he hallucinated and he flipped out and he ran into the woods and they were able to kill him, and plead insanity for the death. So this is some Mission Impossible stuff it was meant to be used for, believe it or not. I think they did away with it. They probably have better stuff now because LSD, in order for the effects to start, it takes some time for it to kick in, like 30 minutes, I believe, or more. So they probably have, don't you worry, I'm sure they have much more cost effective and awful ways to take people out and condition them and all kinds of things. So that's where this stuff is coming from. And then there's Pachamama, right? Now Pachamama is very sad because that didn't have to be pushed out there either. Pachamama is north of the Ayahuasca tribe, and these people, Pachamama literally means Mother Nature. It's the Mother Nature goddess of the Incans. She's very important to them, and again, like people are like, there's there's this band called Tool, and the guy who did the cover art for Tool, his name is Alex Gray. He does art. It's freaky stuff, but he's very good at depicting what he draws, and it's all very like his experiences and what he depicts are all new agey, very good art, by the way. He's very, very talented, but new agey, Mother Earth, third eye stuff, very hippied out stuff. All of this hippie stuff is coming from these pagan religions, as well as the occultists are using it too, because they believe it's all leading up to some great enlightenment thing. It's all part of their Antichrist agenda. And what are the consequences of that? Well, the consequences are already rampant in our culture. This idea that it's anything spiritual is just this self gratifying thing instead of a self giving thing. This idea that I just hate it, and I gave an assignment to my class, and they're like, this assignment where would you save it? And it's an awful question to ask because people love their pet dogs, but would you save a dog over a human? And then there's people who are like, I don't want to have a family, I just want to have a career, and everything is about how you can make yourself the most comfortable and convenient and high as possible at the expense of others or at the expense of building something greater. For all their talk of enlightenment and building up humanity, people are pretty freaking miserable. And why is that? See, that's my final point of my the final point of my discussion. And again, we don't want to do away with anyone who's in this lifestyle or has been because of Zachary King. Other people have converted, and also I dabbled with drugs, and there are other people that did. And I confessed it because I'm not supposed to do that as a Christian, but I'm fine. I think that more or less passed, the effects of it passed me by, and now I'm involved in contemplation. So I'm basically once again going into super deep spiritual stuff. So there's always hope for people, but like what happens is if this very spirituality that's supposed to build people up into this new age of Aquarius, this this enlightenment of humanity. If you look at the lives of these people, they're not happy. Isn't that interesting? They're not happy after all of this. After the you have the Masonic pro science atheist stuff. You have New Agers. You have witches. You have all different kinds of these people. And they're not happy people. Just like anyone stuck in some kind of sin. One second, guys. Let me just close the door here. And that's the point. The Judeo-Christian religion and some Eastern religions as well, but I do believe that the Christian religion, especially the Catholic religion, answers the question of man's misery, his selfishness, his unhappiness, his unable to be alone with himself the best. Um, the whole point is to find happiness, which has nothing to do with power or pleasure. And so, we can debate all the time about, I could debate an occultist about, why God is infinite and why he's stronger than Satan and why, you're on the wrong side. I could debate with an atheist um, about whether or not God exists and why you should care. Or I could debate someone from another religion or a new ager. But at the end of the day, do you end up more fulfilled, happy, and loving others in a positive way? Are you actually lifting people up around you? Are you actually a light, or are you a false light? Are you stuck in the false light of Lucifer, the false light of pleasure and convenience and solipsism? And I think that's what Zachary King in his testimony about when he became Catholic. That's what he said. He said, "This is a guy who's at the top of the whole wizard magic thing." He said, "I was never happy." He said that the year that I spent with this Catholic family who took me in with these kids, and he lives with them, and in prayer, he said, "I've never been happier." He was on the verge of tears. He was just so moved. So no, I hope that kills a lot of anyone's curiosity about this stuff. There is no comparison really between the occult and Christianity, because even if they say, well, we have our own stuff and it's more fun, oh boy, it doesn't end up well. But you know what? Here's another thing: the difference between a sinner and of someone who's into the occult. And to answer Elizabeth's question, why would anyone be into that? Well, Elizabeth, we have to be humble here, because whenever we sin big time, we are involved in that. We are involved in that wavelength of "do as thou wilt." Okay, and any serious sin or even a small sin. Okay, so I'm not going to go around again. That's another reason why I don't go around like. Although I know it's bad and it's evil, we have to love people that are. We have to love enemies. We have to, yes, be firm with them, but we have to be open to a possibility of their conversion, because sin is sin, and sin cuts you off from God regardless, if it's really bad. And the difference between me and someone who's a Satanist or an occultist is that I fall out of weakness and temporary selfishness, and I try to get myself back up, and they embrace the whole lifestyle of total selfishness. Okay, so how can you put yourselves in the shoes of someone like this? Well, look back on your sins. Look back on those times where you just basically, gave God the bird and you want to do what you wanted, and you want to, take your cookies out of the cookie jar in whatever way that's really in the adult sins. Okay, it's a little analogy there, and you have a window into probably the thought process of a globalist. It's just at a higher degree, a much, 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 much higher degree, right? But we're all descended from Adam and Eve. Okay, this is not something that's that hard to understand. Um, so that's my warning to people that, like, please, we should all get red pilled about these realities, and we should all do what we can about it. Inform people, warn people about their kids going out on Halloween. Look out, take better care of your kids. There are predators out there. Beware of books with the occult and things like that. And of course, the most important, get involved in prayer. If you're interested in mysticism and prayer and fighting the globalist agenda and the Antichrist agenda, well, this channel is a prayer of spiritual action. So you've come to the right place. But at the same time, but for the grace of God, there go I. The wrong circumstances, the wrong the level of brokenness, a certain level of brokenness, a certain few things that happen in life, wrong bad influences, and that could be us. I could be one of those very people that I criticize so much if I had taken a different turn in life. So that's my little discourse on all of this. I do think I'll do another stream breaking up because the one world religion is being pushed and these drugs and things. I think I need to do a stream on shamanism in the New Age, um, all on its own. I have done one, which you can check out, about one with nature, which is a discussion as to why people like the New Age stuff and nature. But I think I need to go into like a more academic dissection of the different types of shamanism out there, and it's important because through analysis of other religions, which the globalists are taking from, we can understand better as to why the Christian religion is more important and Western civilization is better. Because I think we're going to need more apologetics in that area against this environmentalism coming out, and being pushed by the UN and all this, which is all involved in this stuff, and the pseudoscience, or we're in big trouble, you know. So we're going to have to start really putting on our Indiana Jones hat and studying up on history and cultural anthropology as to where these ideas are coming from. And you know, we talk about the new evangelization. Isn't it sad how little Christians are evangelizing these people, or at least being open about why the gospel's correct and why their religion isn't correct, for the sake of their own souls and for the sake of history and posterity. It's a shame. I'm hearing that the Catholic Church is so much embracing this kind of stuff, this shamanism, and they're trying to be so cozy with it, and they're being so liberal. They're trying to push such liberation theology, and they're trying to turn a blind eye so much that the very people of South America are a bit disturbed. I remember there was a shaman from Pachamama. They came to the Vatican, and even the shaman was kind of weirded out by these Christian people being so open arms to them. And I think he was disagreeing with some of what the Pope Francis types were saying. So isn't that crazy? Like, you know, even the shamans think we're weird. And then a lot of people are joining Protestant churches in South America because they're getting absolutely no substance from the Catholic Church. So I guess that's my final reason why I'm hesitant to get too up in arms over people getting involved in paganism and this and other kind of stuff, is because where are the freaking bishops? You know, that's their job. Where are the St. Patrick's out there? You know, so we got to point our fingers at ourselves first on so many of these problems in our world. Um, but that's I guess neither here nor there. Thomas and I rant about that all the time. Oh, by the way, if you're interested in our spirituality, our little magic here on the channel, the prayer of contemplation, Sacred Heart of Jesus to the left of me, we'll be doing a discussion, Utopiana, 8 p.m. Eastern, today, on more about the contemplative experience. So stay tuned for that. Elizabeth's been a long time prayer warrior here. She might show up, give her own 2 cents. But Elizabeth and I our lives have been dramatically changed through this deep form of prayer and mysticism. And we're still just newbies. We're still just little babies. And it's just been so profound and deep. So see you there if you want to learn more. Thanks for coming out to the broadcast. I hope it helped, and I hope to give you something to think about.